Welcome to Life on Pause, a podcast defining the experience of being a young adult with cancer. Each episode, we explore issues impacting young adults in and after treatment. Like what you hear? Have something to add? Come join us for our next recording. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Life on Pause. My name is Corrine. I was 16 years old when I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I'm here today at the Hershey Ronald McDonald House with Taylor, Noah, Bailey, and Jenna. Today, we dive into the sweet and salty parts about food and cancer. Like following any recipe, you need ingredients. So I think to start, we need to go back to our relationships with food before cancer, during it, to kind of get to where we are now. So to kind of start the conversation, pre-cancer, do you guys remember like the last food you ate or like your relationship with food before diagnosis?
I know, like, mine is probably different than everyone else's because I used to, like, power lift in my high school, and I was a dual sport athlete, so, like, I definitely used to, like, calorie count, like, watch what I ate, and I was, like, definitely, like, oh, like, a salad here, like, I used to, like, focus so much on what I ate, and then it, like, drastically changed. My last thing I think I ate before was, like, a protein bar and a yogurt. I think it was the last thing I ate before I found out.
I can't remember what the last thing I ate before I found out. And by the way, I'm Jenna, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 33, and AML leukemia that came from the chemotherapy that I did for breast cancer at age 36. But when I was diagnosed with the AML, they rushed you right into the hospital, and they said, "We got your blood work back. We have a bed for you." And when I sitting in that bed, I said, "I wished I ate more cheeseburgers." So yeah, because at that point, like when the chemo was starting, I didn't have any appetite, and things were just kind of looking really dire at that point. And I thought about how much time I spent obsessing about food prior to diagnosis, and I was like, I wish I had more cheeseburgers.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I was 12 when I was diagnosed with ALL leukemia, and I'm 31 now, so about 19 years ago. I was like a pretty young kid at that point, but I think I always was a pretty good eater, not like a very picky kid, just eating a little bit more adult foods even at a younger age. I don't remember the last thing that I ate before I was diagnosed, but I remember the day that I was told that I was diagnosed. Like family was coming over, I think like causing a distraction, and my aunt and uncle asked me, they were running to McDonald's, and I know I asked for an Egg McMuffin. I don't know if they ever came back with one. I don't know if that was just like a diversion to like distract me from what was going to happen.
Hi, I'm Noah. I was diagnosed with ALL when I was 14 years old. Mostly what I can remember about my relationship with food was that I was kind of a picky eater. I didn't really eat all that much. I never really liked like random foods like macaroni salad or potato salad for some reason. Don't know why, but never really ate that much. But that definitely changed a lot.
Yeah, so I was 16, and at that like time I had just gone prom dress shopping. So of course, like most 16-year-olds, like I was so hyper focused on my body, and I was really active in volleyball. And I remember the day we went to the doctor, like there's this place in my home, like near my hometown called Piccadilly, and they make like the best tuna subs with Middlesworth barbecue chips and chocolate milk. And that's what I ate. And I don't know why that sticks to me to this day, but like every time there, it's like an instant like memory reaction. Like I'm like, okay, this is what happened with this. Okay, so we talked about during treatment. How would you say you noticed that your taste buds changed, and just kind of like, were there any foods that you loved pre-diagnosis that during chemo you were like, absolutely not?
I forgot to introduce myself, but I'm Bailey. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma when I was 17, and I'm 19 now. But I think this is pretty common, at least that I've heard when I talk to people, but I was terrified of chicken. Like if I smelled chicken, I would run in the other room, like get hysterical. Like the smell of chicken. And I used to I was never like a big chicken eater, but like I liked chicken. Like my mom made chicken a lot, but it repulsed me. Like I would throw up just from the smell of it. I don't know what it was, but like that, I hated the smell of chicken.
Yeah. I felt like things tasted so metally.
Yes.
Like every kind of meat tastes like metal. And I also I feel like it was a texture thing too. Like I love eggs now, but eggs during treatment, I like couldn't look at. Like I was like, no, no thanks. And I remember there was a time where which now I look at myself and I'm like, how dare you thought this? I didn't like ice cream. Like I just was like, it was too cold for me. And depending on the flavor, it just was too metallic. Like everything just tasted like metal.
I actually had no food issues when I was going through breast cancer treatment. Like I was, going through chemo. I did a bunch of different kinds of chemo. Nothing affected my taste buds. I loved food exactly the same. And I think I gained 20 pounds through treatment, which is a commonplace. You're on steroids, that sort of thing. But I just ate my way through cancer treatment for the breast cancer. But when I was going through treatment for AML and the stem cell transplant that I did, you get to this point after the transplant where you get mucositis in your throat and mouth. And I went 2 weeks without basically eating anything. And they couldn't put a feeding tube in because the risk of infection was so great after the transplant. So I would just live off of a few bites of Italian ice in that 2-week period when it was just too painful to eat.
Yeah, I know when I had my transplant, I was lucky enough that they could put me on like IV nutrition because I couldn't. I think mine was like 2-3 weeks. I just could not taste food. Like I couldn't touch it. I wanted nothing to do with it. And then once I finally like started eating, the only thing I would eat was watermelon. That's all I would eat when I came off.
Now, do you guys feel like being on like TPN and lipids, like did that not like freak you out, but you were just like we as a nurse, I joke around that it's like your French fries and your milkshake. Because it's like bright yellowish and white. Did it have any impact on you?
I can't look at Fanta the same. Like anything like orange like that, I can't do it. Like and like certain things, like if I go to like a fast food joint, like sometimes I'll like a smell will like kind of trigger me and remind me of that. But yeah, it's like I definitely get like flashbacks to it sometimes. It's weird.
I don't remember having any real food aversions except for when I was really nauseous and sick. I just wouldn't eat anything. And you knew when I really didn't feel well if I really wasn't eating anything. But I have heard a lot of people with the metallic thing. I don't remember having that, but I've had a lot of people tell me about like citrus, like lemon and stuff really helped them. And I really love lemonade and orange juice and things now. So I don't know if that like came from that. I just didn't really like put two and two together. But yeah, I don't really remember having anything that really affected me too much.
So lemonade, though, are we talking like straight country time lemonade or like the good like amusement park fair lemonade with like the chunk of lemon and
Well,
sugar?
that's the best. Yeah, especially when there's a lot of sugar at the bottom. It's all gritty. Yeah.
Yeah. The best.
I mean, I can definitely speak to like steroids during treatment. But whenever I started taking those steroids, I could not stop eating. I remember
Rage
being,
is real.
yeah, I remember being up at like 3 a.m. going down into my kitchen, and I would like start trying to make things like like a pizza in my toaster oven, or just making like these small like macaroni bowls, and it's just like you're constantly trying to eat. And I remember 20 seconds after one night, like eating a whole thing of like macaroni, just all of a sudden I had this huge wave of nausea come over me. And it just all came back up. And I remember my parents constantly coming downstairs and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "I'm hungry."
No, I get it. I had this teacher, shout out to Mrs. Dirk. Thank you so much. When I would be on my like 2 weeks of steroids, she would make me the most amazing. It was like a brownie with like a Hershey bar that was in the middle. And they were heavenly. Like it got to the point where I wouldn't share them at school. Like she would make them for me and I would just take them home. And like that was my roid rage food. That and like after every chemo, I had to come home and like my granny would make me her homemade mashed potatoes. Like literally would like didn't care that she was peeling the potatoes. Like I just wanted potatoes after chemo. Like that was my thing. But like I don't think unless you've experienced roid rage, you get it. It's like you're like insatiable. Like you have things that you want, but at the same time, it's like nothing is craving like what it is you crave. Speaking of that, was there anything that you like had to have to eat during like treatment?
I know I like if I didn't have a cheesecake at the house, like I would go hysterical. Like there
What
had to be
flavor?
just plain cheesecake, like a whole, and it had to be a whole
Classic.
cheesecake. Like you couldn't just go and get me a slice. Like I needed the whole cheesecake in the fridge. I know, like when I first started like my steroids, I demolished a whole cheesecake in 2 days. Like it was bad. Like I needed the cheesecake.
There's no shame in that. I mean, we pull the cancer card.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
cancer, like
Yeah.
cheesecake or not, there's no shame in it.
I remember like not long after I started my treatment, and like I went on, I'm pretty sure whenever I went on my first round of steroids, I was texting my mom like random pictures of foods that I just like really wanted, and I remember like sending her this picture of like these like Tabasco flavored pickles. And I was like, I want them so bad. And they got me like 2 jars of them. And like I remember constantly getting up out of my bed, grabbing a pickle or two, then sitting back down like every now and then just keep on grabbing pickles. I mean, they thought that was really funny, just me sending like random things.
No, I know. I did that to my parents too. I would like send them stuff, especially like, and we're in the age of like mobile ordering with like food apps. So like, I would like send them pictures of like my orders and be like, you should really get me this.
I had 3 big food things that I wanted, and my dad would call me on his way home from work and just be like, do you need me to stop anywhere? One was Rita's Italian ice. So just kind of like you were all saying about like watermelon, like Italian ice, just like something cold and like refreshing. A turkey kids meal sandwich from Subway. And there was a diner near my house called Dempsey's, which sadly they knocked down and turned into a Sheetz, which is still good to have there. But they made the best beef vegetable soup. So my dad would go in and get a quart of it. And he said like they knew him at some point, like, oh, are you here for your quart of soup? And that was just it, like soup, sandwich, Italian ice, everything. That's all I ever wanted.
I don't know if any of you guys experienced this, but one of the things that I felt like I would get would be just dry mouth, like no matter how much I was drinking. And I remember my oncologist at the time, Dr. Barber, was like, try eating hard candy. So I was never to be without a bag of Jolly Ranchers, like Jolly Ranchers. And those, I don't even know if they make them anymore. It was the Lifesavers cream saver, like they're the cream saver. Yeah, they had like raspberry and like they were like, I was not to be without those. And they really did help. Do you guys feel like you had dry mouth at all or anything helped with it?
I always had Jolly Ranchers too. Like I always carried them with me. My grandma owns a candy stand, and like she would always just like drop a bag like in our kitchen. She'd be like, here you go.
I had dry mouth a lot after treatment for leukemia. I mean, for years after, to the point where like if I was somewhere without a bottle of water, I'd feel panicked. So it wasn't so much like a food, but I have to have like water with me at all times.
Yeah, I anytime my Stanley, my Yeti, a regular bottle of water, whatever it is, like it's like an emotional support thing now. Like I need water in some capacity.
Like I would never get into a car without a water.
Yep. No, I totally get that. Okay, so we kind of talked about we talked about during. This is kind of a question that I feel like a lot of times you see like taboo things. Did any of you ever experience where someone either A, tried to tell you that like food caused your cancer, or B, that you should eat X, Y, and Z because you have cancer?
Oh, yeah. On the internet.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of cancer groups out there. And if you join them, you'll get a lot of support, but you'll also meet a lot of crazies. And there'll be people on there trying to, kind of push their lifestyle on you. Or, sometimes they think they cured their cancer. They may have done, traditional treatments like chemotherapy and things like that, but they'll say that they changed their way of eating and therefore cured their cancer. And so then they push that on, you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I let it get to me for a while. And shortly after I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was like, I'm going to try to be a vegan and I'm going to do this and that. And this is bad. And everything that I ate, I started to feel like this might be poison. This might be poison. And I was having an unhealthy relationship with food because I was putting so much pressure on the food to be the thing that either made me sick or cured me. And that I don't believe is true. I know plenty of vegans that got cancer, and I know plenty of people that eat fast food trash every day and are perfectly healthy. So I try not to do that. I try to eat to make my body feel good, not because I think that what I do or don't put in my mouth is going to make or break if I have cancer or not. So yeah, but there's a lot of that on the internet.
I know, like, my grandma's friends would always be like, oh, like, if they'd see me eating something, like, I had a problem with, like, energy drinks. Like, I would always have an energy drink when I was little, and they were like, oh, that's what did it, honey. And I was like, okay, oh, maybe. Like that, and, like, they would always say, like, red 40. Like, it was always the older people who would come up to me and say it, too. And they could, like, be the first time they met me, too. That would be, like, they'd always say, like, oh, like, did you have, like, red 40? And I'd be like, I don't know what red 40 is. And then, like, I finally figured it out, but it was usually, like, they'd blame it on, like, energy drinks or, like, red 40 a lot for me.
Oh, thankfully, I didn't have to deal with that too much. I think just being young, like, it didn't really come up. And just like back when I was diagnosed, not as much. But like, I see it all the time now, like TikTok and people that I follow that are like going through treatment and things now, just to kind of watch their story. And there's a lot of them that really try to change their diet around things or try to help their treatment. I think the only thing for me is that I have like a lot of health anxiety now because of my treatment and what I went through. So now I kind of think of things of everything that you hear in the news of like microplastics and like the red 40, like you said, or just like additives and the soybeans and everything that you see. So I went through phases of things where I wouldn't eat like certain things, or I'd be like very careful of like what I want to eat because of those things. But not really because of my diagnosis. I think more of like a side effect of like going through it.
I feel like people also don't, on the flip side, like if I was like neutropenic, I shouldn't have been eating fresh fruits and veggies. And people would be like, oh, you know, fruits and veggies and all these natural things. And it's like, yes, I would love to eat this beautiful peach because it's June, but my count it's not advisable for me. And I know that we were kind of touching upon this like earlier, all of us. I feel like when you're in the thick of it, yes, there's such thing. We all know there's good nutrition and there's bad nutrition, and then there's just nutrition. And like when you're in the thick of this, like if you haven't eaten anything for 3-4 days and all of a sudden you want that milkshake, like eat the damn milkshake. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if it's, yes, like if you have the chance to make a better choice, you could, but if it comes down to like calories are so important. Like chemo wrecks your body in a way that like you don't understand unless you're going through it. And I think a lot of people, and it's not even just with cancer, I feel like in our culture, it's so easy to food shame. It's so easy to like look at someone and be like, they didn't make that decision, or like, why are they choosing to eat that? And it's like, I think to take a step back and be like, maybe they're choosing to eat it because that's all they can tolerate to eat right now, you know?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, like I was just floored that my oncologist was like, for dinner, have a bowl of ice cream and then follow it with another bowl of ice cream. Like they really pushed so much ice cream on me because it's just so critical. Like you're starting to lose weight going through the treatment, that you get the most caloric thing that you can get. And they really push the ice cream. They're like, have a piece of cake and then put ice cream on it. I'm like, this just seems so wrong, but if you say so.
How would you guys say while you were going through treatment it was when you would have to like eat around people? Like if it was at a function or at school or just anyone really?
I think it's definitely, like, for me, it was awkward because, like, I was always so hungry when I was on, like, my steroids and stuff. And then you go there and, like, people are already looking at you because of obviously, like, people always staring at me for my situation. But then, like, I get, like, a plate mounted with food, and then I feel like the eyes just, like, tripled. So I would always be, like, eat, like, a little bit, and then I just kind of, like, sit there and, like, I'd be like, well, I'm just, like, starving, but, like, it's weird to, like, keep eating because everyone keeps looking at me. So I feel like it's definitely something you have to, like, think about, like, try to overcome because, like, people, like, just love to, like, stare and, like, but they don't, understand. So it's one of those things, like, personally, you have to, like, overcome. At least I know I did.
Yeah, because I know, like, I definitely, whenever I would, like, start to eat, like, especially if I had, like, I had taken steroids, like I would literally like go through an entire plate of food like so fast. Like I couldn't stop like I could not stop myself. And it's just like you kind of feel awkward and whenever you do that in public. It's just like you're just downing food like in like 2 minutes. It's like and you just kind of feel like I don't know, like ashamed, I guess, in a way, but you just do it anyways.
Yeah, I feel like it's really hard to not be self-conscious with those kinds of things, especially like I've always been like pretty thin, and then when I was diagnosed and I was 12, I was like 80 pounds, lost all this weight, went down to 60, was on steroids, got all this weight, puffy face. And then so it's like hyper focused on like my family or people around you like, well, if you could eat anything, like I'll get you whatever you want. I'll make you whatever you want. Like, do you need me to stop? And it's just like you don't really want all that attention on you of like having to eat or having to make others not worry about you and feel like you're getting what you need and taking care of yourself. And so that's really hard to just feel like, yeah, like you said, like eyes are on you of just like, are you okay? Like, are you sick? How do you feel? Like, do you want anything? And then like I had 3 siblings that, they're not being asked, like, what can I get you something on the way home? Or like, can I make you something special? So it's kind of like that unwanted attention too around something that's supposed to just be like normal eating.
Yeah, I feel like also too, you never know when that like wave of nausea or that like just I don't feel like eating this is gonna hit. And I remember and like looking back on it, it makes me sad. And in the moment I didn't think of it, but I was like had got diagnosed, was starting treatment, and it was like my little sister's birthday. And her like birthday cake, I just like and my mom has this tradition where she asks us what kind of cake or what we want that year. And I just like I couldn't eat it. I just didn't have it in me. But then I remember waking up at like 2 a.m. and I was craving a peanut butter and jelly sandwich more than like anything. And woke up and just made this massive peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I remember like looking at the cake and feeling bad because it's like I just didn't want that then. And then too, when it was like PET scan time and you're on like the tyramine diet, so you can't have more than 20 grams of carbs a day. You can't have sugar. Like you have to be very strict pre your scan. And I remember being at like a family function and like some family members would be like, oh, you can just sneak a little bit. Like it's okay. And you're like, no, like I really can't just have this piece of pasta. Like that's not how this works. And I think that it does almost like in your mind, it really does play this game of this like healthy, unhealthy way you view yourself because it's like this not only external pressure, but then like internal pressure that just gets created. Do you guys feel like there's a food that you just like cannot eat to this day? That like if you see it, you're just like absolutely not.
I remember during treatment, like especially with the levels like those waves of like nausea. I feel like those contributed a lot to like the foods I didn't like to eat. Because if I was eating something that I really liked and all of a sudden I felt that wave of nausea, I feel like your body kind of thinks like that's the reason why, like you start to like feel bad, like it's because you're eating that food. And like one time I was eating Jersey Mike's, so it was like my favorite sub place. I used to eat it all the time, and I just was eating it one time. And I just started to feel sick, and I threw up. And like not long after that, like I tried to eat it again, and I just couldn't. Like I looked at it, and I was just like, it. I feel like I'm gonna throw up again. Like, and the strange thing is, like, I can look at any other like sub and be like, okay, yeah, that's cool. But if I see like a Jersey Mike's bag and a sub, and like I smell it, I will like start to like gag almost because it's just like I that's nasty. Like, and I mean, like it's gone a lot better today, but I don't think I can actually like eat a Jersey Mike's sub. I can't.
No, I get that completely. Like the first time I fully like I think got sick, got like through chemo treatments, I had just finished eating a Caesar salad. And and like of course that was what I threw up, a Caesar salad. So to this day, like I can't fathom a Caesar salad. Like I just can't do it. Any other salad, like it's the dressing I think that gets me that I can't do it.
Luckily for me, no, but I relate food back to a lot of memories and a lot of occasions and different things. So I have like a connection like that way with food, but luckily I don't have anything that still bothers me today.
Yeah, me either. I never got sick from chemo, so like I said, I ate my way through. I loved it all, and I still do.
I remember I had, it was like a late chemo day, and I had gotten like my Zofran earlier, was like feeling fine. It still wasn't in like the 8-hour mark. And we left chemo clinic late, and I just was starving. And so we stopped at, I was like, please, I need something to eat. And we stopped at McDonald's, and I got a McChicken and a strawberry milkshake. And I had like never gotten sick to this point. And we got home, and I was like, I think I'm okay. And then I remember I was laying on the couch, and like my granny came up, and she, of course, made me my mashed potatoes, and I couldn't, she like knew something was wrong because I just like couldn't eat them. And I was like, I think I'm going to be sick. And I threw up 18 hours on and off. And then just like this smell of McDonald's strawberry milkshake and McChicken just permeated my entire like floor. And my sisters and like my mom and like my granny before she passed away, like we would laugh about it because like everyone would just smell it, and like everyone was gagging but laughing. But to this day, like I cannot, like even just like looking at McDonald's, like I'm just like, like it just, no, can't do it. I cannot do it. Now being in remission, how would you say your relationship with food is now, if it has changed at all?
I totally relate with what we were all saying about like when you haven't eaten and just kind of giving yourself whatever you feel like you need. And I feel like I kind of kept that thought, like even now for myself, like even if I'm just sick with something normal, I just kind of tell myself, like, even if this isn't the best thing, if I'm eating something, that's better than nothing. And I carry that through with like, if my grandparents are in the hospital or something going on, it's just like, if that's what she wants, like give it to her because it's better than having nothing. But when I was going through my treatments, I started watching the Food Network because I was kind of like pre-teeny. So I was getting out of cartoons and things and just laying around all day. That's what I started watching. So I really found like a love of like food. And like if I wasn't watching on and I wasn't eating, you knew I was like really not feeling good that day. So like I went to school for hospitality. I really love food and cooking. It didn't really turn into a job like I thought it would. It just kind of stays more fun for me to just be like a hobby and like a passion kind of a thing. So somehow it helped me kind of find my love of like food and cooking. So I really just, I love to cook. I love being around food. I'm a big foodie, trying new places, trying new things. And if I just, if I feel like it, just have it. It's better than not eating at all.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Like, I would pretty much the exact same. Like, whenever I was in treatment, especially whenever like I was like had steroids, I remember all the time I would be like, I swear, like 80% of my watch time on YouTube was probably like food travel videos and like foodie videos and stuff like that. And I watched like so much, like constantly. And I swear, like I kind of just like, and especially if I had steroids, like no matter what it was on the screen, like it looked good, and like I really wanted it. So I feel like watching that constantly, kind of like making that connection. I just kind of made like all food like look good to me. So like now I'm like not as picky as I was. Like I don't really think I'm picky at all. I don't think there's anything that I've had since treatment that like I don't like. Like I pretty much like liked all food now, and it's also like it inspired me to I like to cook too, and like I kind of found that out during treatment. Like I would make like little pizzas like all the time. Like I love to like cook different things, and that definitely like that experience definitely made me connect a lot more to food, and it's kind of like a hobby of mine as well now.
I definitely think that like I was so scared of like getting nauseous a lot of the time when I was like going through treatment that like I didn't try like a lot of new things. Like I would like always stick to my same like few items when I was like going through treatment to now. Like the point, especially like when you go to college, like going like through like stuff up there, like you don't always like have like your go-to foods. So, like I've definitely got to the point where like I try a lot more food now than I usually would. So like I wasn't picky. Like I call myself like the garbage disposal. Like I eat everything, but like I really do like try to try everything now because like there's very few things that'll like trigger me like from like before. But like I don't know. It's nice to like continue to like kind of have that mindset of like just if you want to eat it, but also like try new things because like you never know when.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. There was one point after my transplant where I just, besides the sore throat part, I just couldn't eat. It was after I returned home. My husband was having to beg me to eat like a yogurt, just one yogurt a day, and and I said, this is crazy that this is happening because I love food, but it was all part of the process. It was completely normal. But after the first 100 days, you start to get your appetite back, and then you can start to, there was a lot of things you couldn't eat after stem cell transplant because of your, compromised immune system, fruits and vegetables and, all different. So it really was like unhealthy stuff, like prepackaged things were safe, but not certain meats or fruits or vegetables. But once I got past that point, like now I'm just like I'm definitely adventurous with food, and I'm a foodie, and I appreciate beautiful food and, trying new restaurants and what place has the best presentation and that sort of thing. So I'd say I love food like more than ever. And I do believe in, being healthy, but like indulging too, because I have that memory of being in the hospital and thinking that I was going to die and thinking, why did I waste all my time dieting? Like, why didn't I enjoy more things? And why did I restrict myself and that sort of thing?
I think for me, one of my big things when I was sick was like, I felt like it was, I don't want to say a second chance, but it was this like humbling kind of like wake up call I didn't realize I needed. That I was like, okay, you went through this. Like, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, I want to travel and I want to like see the world and I want to, do all these things. And as well, like, I love food, like foodie for life. But then with that, like, one of my like post like long-term side effects from chemo was like, I developed this autoimmune disease called like polymyositis. So like my red muscle fibers essentially like attack each other and I just get like swollen. So if I eat certain foods, especially like saltier foods, I get puffier and I can like feel it and it just is like harder to move. So I try and be more conscious of that. But then I am still a sucker for it's 85 degrees outside. That means it's ice cream, like and with that, I think that as much as I have this like relationship where I love food, I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't times where I just go back to almost like that chemo time where I don't know what I want. Perfect example was last night with dinner with my boyfriend. Like we spent an hour where it'd be like, okay, we're going to get this. And then I just was like, I don't think I want this. And then like we would almost get in the car to like go somewhere because like Fridays is usually like our date night. And I just was like, I don't think I want this. And I just was so, and I know it's like a joke that girls are indecisive, but it wasn't even indecisive. It just like was like my palate was like, absolutely not. Like hard no, I don't want the taste of this. So I feel like I carry that from being sick still, is just like, what does my palate actually want? Is there any other questions or any things you guys can think of?
I just wanted to say, you brought up the PET scan diet, and I wanted to talk about that because it is truly like probably the hardest thing to do and that people don't get. I went through it for the first time when I was most recently when I was at school, and being in a new place and having to try to do it and you're out of your routine. Because once you start doing it for like a while, you're in a routine of like what you eat. And like, I would always have like eggs in the morning, a chicken breast for lunch,
10
and
strawberries.
Yeah. Like I would have it scripted out. And then being in a new place, I called my mom like sobbing and I was like, I have to drive home today. Like I can't do it here. I don't know what to do. Like I'm freaking out. Like I literally had a chicken breast like in the morning, and it was like, it gave me like the smell from the grill sent me into like, I was scared of chicken again. And I was like, I can't do this. Like I was sobbing on the phone with her and I had to drive home. And it's just like, or you have it and you're like at a family gathering and they don't understand, like you said, like they just don't get it. And it's something that like is really like hard because like people just don't get it.
I remember my second PET scan, like my post-treatment PET scan. I was with my dad and like we were just like hanging out, and he just had this little bowl of like mints and lifesavers, and like not even thinking I went for one, and like my dad like was like, stop. And I was like, and he's like, you're on your tyramine diet. And I just was like, oh. And it's like, at that point, like I was about to turn 17 then, like, you shouldn't be worrying about counting your carbs and counting how many strawberries you can cut and avoiding all these good things. But you do, like, you just have to do it. And I don't think people understand, like, And I think it ties back to the whole like dieting thing too. Like we had to do these diets. Like we didn't have a say to be like, oh, let me try this. So when you hear or read these like fad diets or these like crazy things people are doing, you're just like, what if you really had to do that? Like, would you have a different perspective on it? But I think we can all agree that being a cancer survivor has helped mold us into who we are today. And kind of like our conversation today, it presents itself as being sometimes sweet, sometimes sour, sometimes we feel bitter or salty, and then we have moments we savor because we're here. Thanks for listening to Life on Pause. Ideas or suggestions for future episodes? Feel free to share them with us. Make sure you like, subscribe, or follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.